everyone. Good afternoon. It is a nasty Thursday here in North Carolina. Steve is in Syracuse, New York. Isn't that right, Steve?
That's correct. Yes.
And is it snowy there today?
Not yet, but it's coming.
It's coming. It is raining here and it's cold and kind of miserable. But let us know where you are tuning in from today. Again, the topic of this show is improve your cash flow and how any business can really get better with cash flow. Again, look at cost, examine it in a different way. But Steve's going to help us with that. But that's the topic, improve your cash flow. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And as Steve and I are talking, if you guys have any questions, let us know. We just love to hear from people, love solving big problems. So if you have any questions, let us know. We will try to get to each one as we go. But let's get started, Steve. So you're with Integrity Cost Consulting. And the first thing I want to hit on is your entrepreneurship journey, because you weren't always an entrepreneur. Right now, you're the CEO of your company. You guys have been established for 8 years. But how'd you get started in this journey and to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's always fascinating to find out how people started. But yeah, so basically, I grew up in a very cost conscious household. My dad was very frugal. I'm the youngest of seven. He had 7 kids of his own, and we had foster kids. So saving money, he had to save money, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I went to school, went to college to be an accountant, and came out of college, became a cost analyst for a paper manufacturer down in North Carolina, not too far from where you are. And in addition to costing out production runs for our paper, I also had time to look at our P&L. And my goal in any position that I ever had with a company is always try to find savings that were 2 times my salary. So, back in 1992, the salary wasn't very much, but anyways, so I started looking at the telephone bill for my employer down in North Carolina, found some opportunities there. And then just throughout my time working for manufacturers, distributors, a utility company, even a restaurant group, I just always try to look at costs, try to analyze costs, try to find, cost savings, ways to, boost our bottom line. Then probably about 15 years ago, part of my cost investigative work, I met someone that actually owned a cost auditing company, an invoice auditing company down in North Carolina. Him and his team, they worked focused on utilities and telecom. So they would find errors and overcharges on utility and telecom bills. So he just opened up my eyes to so many different ways that organizations can be overcharged for pretty much any utilities, telecom, without anyone knowing it. Even the vendor doesn't really know it, right?
Wow.
The burden is placed on the consumer to find errors and overcharges. Your vendors are not looking at your bills to make sure that they're accurate or you're paying the least amount possible, right? That's something you have to do. And so throughout all this, and as I mentioned, talked about before, there's 2 ways to increase your profitability: either raise your revenue or decrease your costs. So I always focus on the cost, because reducing your cost, every dollar you find goes right to the bottom line. And that's not how it works for sales, right? It's you increase your sales by $1, that full dollar does not go to your bottom line because you have expenses you have to pay.
That's right.
But anyway, so going back to 15 years ago when I met this gentleman, he just opened my eyes up to so many different ways that I could find errors and overcharges on bills. I just decided, I need to try to do this on my own. So I did work with his team for a while, and then broke out on my own about 8 years ago. And so we focused on utilities and telecom. And then over the years, we've added waste disposal and industrial laundry. And I'm always looking for experts in other areas of expenses to try to find more savings for my clients.
I love that. And
Yeah.
where is your client base? Is it only US based? Would you be able to work globally? What's your preferred method
Preferably it's throughout the United States.
throughout the United States?
Yeah, pretty much, we focus, obviously I'm in New York State, but I have clients in Missouri, Illinois, Florida, Louisiana. So it doesn't really matter. It's a nationwide problem where, basically billions of dollars are being wasted every year. And I'm just trying to find some of that for my clients.
Well, I love that. And it's all about solving those problems. So that's why we get into entrepreneurship, right? We see a problem, we identify it, and you build a business around that problem, and it comes from a place of passion, right? So you, in your former days before you started entrepreneurship, you were in a Fortune 500 company, and then you saw the problem and you realized that it wasn't just this company or just that
No.
industry, right? It's prevalent.
Right.
And you said billions of dollars. I think that is absolutely accurate. I know I've seen it plenty of times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and like you and I talked about before too, it's I can say I firmly believe that at least 9 out of 10 organizations are overpaying their vendors for purchase services but don't know it. And
Wow.
I can back that up. I mean, we have over, between me and the gentleman who owned that company, he started back in 1991, over 30,000 clients, and it's 9 out of 10 are overpaying. So it's a very big sample size, and these are just things that people they're not aware of. They don't know what's possible. And even I don't. I mean, I'm the same way as an accountant, and I want to find everything on my own, but sometimes you have to call in an expert, and who knows the industries, who knows utilities, telecom, waste, industrial line, whatever the case may be. That's all they do is focus on those industries. So they know what questions to ask, where to look, what's possible, because a lot of times too, I'd be involved in budgets, and being part of financial planning and analysis groups. It used to drive me crazy because they would say, okay, we need to reduce our cost by 10%. It's like, well, how are you going to do that? It's like, I don't know, call the vendors and see if we can reduce our costs. Like, well, so now you're relying on the vendors to do your cost control for you, but it's not in their benefit to reduce your costs, right? So if you really think about it, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. And then two, instead of 10%, why can't it be 30%? We can't reduce our cost by 30%. It's like, sure you can, but you have to know what to look for, what question to ask, and what's possible.
I agree with that. And you know what? You hit on something that is really, really key. When you hire an expert, they have an outside lens. They see everything from that 10,000-foot view.
Right.
And when you hire somebody from outside to, really look into something, that's when you can get granular. That's when you can really understand what's happening, because honestly, they have, that outside expert has, no benefit either. They want to just find those errors.
Right.
So it's good in a lot of ways because there's no ego drive there when you
Right.
hire an expert. Whereas if you have even internal people look into something, it's not as accurate.
Right. And that's why, and we even put the burden, the risk is all on us. And I, we didn't talk about this yet, but the way we're paid from the savings and refunds. So we don't even get, so our clients start out cash flow positive right from the beginning. So they don't pay us up front. They pay us only if we find something. And then only after they realize it. Right. So there's really no financial risk.
Yeah.
And I like the model. I mean, it's free, so to speak, right? It's, it's, someone asks for a discount sometimes on the percentage that we share. It's like, well, I can't discount free, right?
That's right.
There's over 14 of us that be working on any particular engagement. So it's like, I can't, that's a lot of man hours, labor hours that we're putting into this. And we basically just finance our fee over the course of a certain period of time. So I think it's a great, everyone I talk to, they say, oh, this is a no brainer, right? Everyone should do this. Right. And I agree, but I'm very biased. Right.
Well, I mean, once you explained it to me, and by the way, for everyone's benefit, Steve and I met during a talk that I had at NASTAC Entrepreneurial Center a few weeks ago, and he came to the show, and then we talked afterwards and became friends. But it's absolutely true. When you give away value like that, there is absolutely no risk for that company. And but at the same time, they have that team of 14 people diligently working on finding those problems and solving them.
Right.
I love that. It's a supportive system where people can't help but succeed. Those companies that you're working with, it's everything. What if you
Right.
could save 30%, right?
Right. I mean, we have clients that save 60, 70% on certain parts of their building, waste bills or industrial laundry. It's not uncommon. It really isn't.
And that's extremely surprising. I would not have. So in your professional opinion, where is
Mhm.
most of this waste coming from that they can't understand where 70% of their revenue is going? What
Right.
is that? Where is it generating or going into?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, I mean, typically those high, 70%, 67%, those savings are coming like from waste disposal, industrial laundry. You're not going to find 60 to 7% savings on your utility bill, most likely, right? But I mean, anything's possible. But typically, it's what happens is you sign a contract with somebody, with a vendor, and then over time, the vendor basically just is always looking for ways to reduce, to charge you more,
Right.
to increase their revenue, right? Um, so they're not doing it in a illegal way or in a bad way, but they keep adding services to your account without you really knowing
Yeah.
it, right? So let's just for an example, let's just say industrial laundry, say 5 locations, and you sign up for, say you started with 30 floor mats, right?
Hmm.
This is a very simple example. All of a sudden you look back 5 years late, and 5 years from that point, from when you started, now you have 80 mats, and they're not only $1 a piece, now they're $7 a piece. It's like, what happened here, right? But the people who are delivering your services, they're incentivized to increase the revenue, right? So they're trying to sell you additional items. You might have signed up for 3 items from your textile rental vendor. Now you have 11, or it's like, how does this even happen? So we try to bring some control to it as well. Who can sign off for new services, who can sign the contracts, and that sort of things like that, where that just gets to be out of control. No one knows who's signing the agreements. No one's paying attention to the contracts. No one knows when they expire. So they auto renew. So and then the benchmarking alone, typically when a company benchmarks their services, they're benchmarking against themselves. They'll say, okay, we received 3 quotes from our waste hauler. Okay, well, you're comparing those quotes to your business, not to your neighbors, your competitors, everyone else in your area, right? And so we have a proprietary database of over 60,000 client locations. We can come in right away and say, yep, you're paying at market, below market, above market. We know within a day pretty much where you are.
Wow.
So that's our benchmarking database is very valuable in that respect, because that's just over time we've collected that data, right? No one else really has that information, right? They just have what
Wow.
they know.
That's incredible. I mean, that's truly mind blowing. All of the services that you offer for your clients.
Yeah,
It
it's really like we talked about before. It's that 5-step process that we have. It's a proven process where I don't know if you want me to go into that now or
Yeah, let's
okay.
talk about the 5 steps. I think everybody's interested in
Yeah,
that.
I'm kind of going here. I'm getting I'm a little, uh, talking too much, I guess. But it's a 5-step process. The first part is just putting the puzzle together. A lot of times people think that it's just the invoice. Well, no, you have the invoice, you have the contract, and then there's at least one other piece of information that you need to verify your charges, whether
Right.
it's a utility tariff, whether it's a customer service record, a manifest, something that your vendor has that they use to generate your invoice, but you don't have it, right? So until you have that, you really don't know. I don't know. I get this phone bill. I don't know if it's right or not. I get this waste hauler bill. I don't know if it's right or not. So you have to compare the invoice to the contract to this other piece or pieces of information that you don't have, but we know to ask for it, right? So we get a letter of agency from our clients. We send it to the vendor so that we can talk to the vendor and request additional documentation. Again, going back to what we you have to know what to ask, what questions to ask. So
Absolutely.
that's the first step is just putting that puzzle together, and then taking all those pieces, going line by line on the invoice
Hmm.
to make sure, yes, here's the line item. Should you pay for it? Yes or no. If not, we try to we basically remove it. And
Hmm.
then the second one is optimizing service levels,
Okay.
right? Making sure that whatever service they have now, we make sure that it's the most efficient possible, cost efficient possible. Whether it's waste hauling, say you're getting picked up 3 times a week, maybe it's twice a week, and you have a bigger containers or something like that, right? And then going the third step, benchmarking your costs, benchmarking what you should pay for your services to our database, and then go back to the vendor, negotiate and procure new contracts if we have to. And
Hmm.
then the fifth step is basically monitoring all the affected invoices to make sure that our clients realize the savings that we said that they would realize. Because a lot of times you can't just set it and forget it, right? You can't just call the vendor and say, hey, we closed down this location, stop billing us for this phone line. It's like, well, someone has to follow through with that, because they're going to continue to bill you for that phone line, right? So, that's just one example, but you have to
Wow.
have someone monitor this monthly, and that's what we do for our clients.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And again, it's nothing I would think of. I didn't realize there was such a thorough process to it,
Right.
especially the monitoring. That wouldn't have occurred to me as something that, but now that you mention it, it's integral, right, to the
Right.
success of any organization
Right.
that cost is monitored,
Yeah,
because
and
otherwise it'll just go out of control again, right?
oh, right. And there's some vendors that if they can raise the price depending on the contract terms and conditions. And that's another thing we do. We'll make sure that
Mm.
your contract terms and conditions are benefiting you, are more favorable to you, not the vendor, right? So we know that we can add in lines to the boilerplate language to protect you, right? To protect our clients. But there's some vendors that, depending on the terms and conditions, they'll say, okay, we can pass along a price increase to you, in a sense that it's not written exactly like this, but basically, if you don't catch it within 10 days, that price sticks.
Really?
So if someone's not paying attention, and that's how it just escalates. And that's how we can save 60 to 70% on some of these, because it's going on for 5-10 years, right? It's unbelievable
Wow.
how it can get out of control so fast.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
incredible.
Right.
Um, what is what's a really good success story? I want to really inspire people today. And just kind of let them know that anything is possible. So have you had a really awesome success story where people just walked away saving, that 60 or 70%? Can you think of?
Oh, yeah. I actually have, I have like quite a few. Just recently, we work with manufacturers, nonprofits, healthcare,
Mhm.
commercial real estate. Um, I like working with all of them. I, I started going down towards nonprofit, the nonprofit lane, because I've always wanted to work for a nonprofit, but now I can work for many of them, right?
That's right.
So I'll use the nonprofit as an example. They came to us. They were looking for ways to, they're having a tough time with their staffing right now, right? They can't retain and recruit because they can't compete with the for-profit companies in the area, right? People are just leaving the organization. So they're trying to create a bonus program for their employees to keep people, to retain them. So they came to us looking for, ways to, can you find us some money, right? To put into this bonus program. So we, we definitely took, wanted to work with them. So we found over $60,000 savings that they can immediately put into that bonus program. And that
Wow.
$60,000 was on waste disposal alone.
And then they
And
were able to give back to their
right,
employees.
right. Yep. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And now they can give raises, they get bonuses, raises, whatever they want to do. And what's nice about it, because nonprofits are always looking for grants, right? They're always looking for money. This is like a grant, but there's no application fee. There's no rejection, or you're not going to get rejected. And it's recurring. These savings that we find are recurring every year. It's like a grant that keeps on giving, right? But
Wow.
there's no compliance reporting issue requirements with this grant money. So it's like grant money, but better is the way I look at it.
I love that. I mean, that is so amazing. What a success story.
Yeah, I
So
love it. I mean, they were, and and we probably should touch on this too. The amount of effort that was required by the nonprofit, I want to say 4 hours. So if you can spend 4 hours one time, it's a one-time time investment, 4 hours to return $60,000 every year. That's a pretty good ROI, right? I think I would do it.
I would do it. I mean, who wouldn't do it? You'd have to be, I don't know. It sounds like any industry can benefit from this.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, yeah, there's certain industries that could benefit more or companies, but honestly, this is something that anybody could benefit from.
mhm,
And as an entrepreneur too, we don't have, especially if you have a small team, you might not have a lot of time or
yeah.
expertise. I think is the main thing.
That's
I
exactly
would
right.
I personally wouldn't have thought of half of the things that you said and offer. So, I mean,
Right.
this is very enlightening to me. I can't see how this couldn't help any business.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it perfectly. I mean, it's the time, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have the
Yeah.
time." Well, yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you have to have a lot of time, and you have to have a lot of perseverance, because a lot of times when we find issues, we have to work to make sure that those issues, that we get the vendor to agree to make the changes that we found, the errors that we found. And a lot of times that's not easy, right? They're not. You just don't just call them up, hey, can you switch this, make this billing change? It's like it's not that easy, right? So we stay on it because it's in our best interest, right, to do it. Plus our clients, because we don't get paid unless we can, unless they realize savings. So it's the time. I mean, like I always like to say to people too, if they question, if they don't really want to do this or not, I'll say, let's just say I give you 14 people. If I
Mhm.
give you 14 people, you only had to pay them if they improved your bottom line. Would you hire them? And you don't have to pay them a salary or 401k, no benefits, no HR issues. It's like, would you do that? It's like, sure. It's like, that's what we're doing, right? That's basically what we're doing. Um,
I love that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Wow, I know a few people that could probably benefit from the service immediately, but it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're a CEO, a president, or a CFO, a controller, reach
yeah,
out, reach out because honestly, if he can do it in 4 hours, and that's the time that you need to put into it, and then you get that guaranteed, positive ROI.
yeah,
There's no reason to go into complete the year the way it is. We need to go into next year on a fresh slate and really figure out some big problems that are costing our organizations a lot of money.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and sometimes it won't even take 4 hours. I mean, I use 4 hours. It could take 2 hours, and it's
wow.
typically not the CFO that's doing this. It's someone else in the organization. But it's. I mean, I've even offered to go in there and collect the documents myself. We only need the last month's invoice for each
Right.
of these vendors. So it's not like we need a lot. It's really, you know, we can get a lot of our information from the vendors, but we need something. We need at least 1 month of invoices from our clients.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, and the contract, and any contracts that are applicable.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so powerful. But I think of again a lot of companies that could benefit from something like this. But is it again? We know it's any industry. Is it any size company, Steve? Is there a specific size that you think is more that benefits more or has benefited more in the past? Do you think, or is it pretty much
Yeah, I
all?
mean, the size of the company. I mean, if it's if it's a lot of people say, can you do this for my house? Can you do this for me personally? It's like, well, I can, but we're going to say, if we say $50, it's like, I have to get paid, and 14, but,
Yeah.
so I would say typically if you have, I hate to say this, but it's like maybe 50 or more employees,
50 or more. Okay.
yeah,
That's a
but if you
good
have multiple
range.
locations, I mean, they're just, it varies based on industry,
Yeah.
geography, um, again, how many locations you have, just all those, there's a lot of factors involved, but we've helped manufacturers as little as 20 employees.
Wow.
We found them a refund of $26,000, but it's like, that's just money that goes, it's going to go to waste. I mean, it's a refund plus their savings going forward too. And one thing I did want to mention, we probably find refunds probably 30 to 40% of the time.
Hmm.
Um, but with those refunds, there's a statute of limitations on them. You can't go back forever. So usually it's 36 months. So so every month that goes by is one less month that you can recover. Right. So it's
Right.
the time to do it is now. And like I always like to say to people, it's like, well, if you knew you were wasting money, when would you like to find out? Now or next year? Right. It's like,
Wow.
yeah,
So it can go back 36 months, but the time is ticking, right?
right,
So, we can't sit on these things. And
right,
why would you want to? There's no upfront investment from any company that Steve works with. But he wants to solve problems, big
right,
problems, and find money that is leaking out of your organization right now that you may not realize it. And that's why you hire somebody like Steve who can really get in there with that prescriptive lens and diagnose and find where these problems are and how to keep more money in house.
right.
Well, you and your team of 14.
Right, right. Yeah, and the one thing I want to mention too is that we're not trying to replace anyone, right? We're not trying to be the hero. I don't even, just I really don't want to be the hero. I want whoever brings us in, that they're going to be the hero, right? It's like,
Yeah.
why didn't we do this sooner type thing is typically what people realize after we do it is like, yeah, we should have did this 3 years ago. I did have a funny one. As I'm out prospecting, trying to talk to potential clients, I had one nonprofit tell me that they're interested, but they want to wait 3 years. It's like, you mean 3 months? He goes, no, 3 years. Like 3 years. Just think about that nonprofit that saved $60,000 in 3 years. They would have wasted 180,000, right? And you can't get that back. Some of the money you're not going to get back. It's lost forever. So, the time to do it is now. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have the time for this." Like, can you carve out 2 hours of someone's time to just get us what we need to get us started?
Right.
And I think you might have mentioned earlier, I'm not sure, but 9 out of 10
Yeah.
of our clients are going to realize a benefit. All of them, 10 out of 10, will know for sure whether they're being charged accurately and cost efficiently. So there's really no downside except for those 2 hours. I mean, that's a downside, I guess, the 2 hours or 2 to 4 hours of someone's time.
But again, if it pays for that person,
Yeah,
it's worth it. There's
yeah,
a positive ROI. So it's foolish, not to do something like this.
right,
And really, it's benefiting everybody. So,
yeah,
you know, with, with this. So that is so important. I love that so much.
yeah,
I love when a business model has a winner at every stage of the process.
yeah, pretty much, yeah, yeah,
Honestly, that's how I built my business. I wanted a winner. Literally, if not every single person was winning, I didn't want to have a business model like that. I made sure that at every stage of the process, every single person you touch, so if that's a vendor, if that's a client, or if that's an employee or your network,
mhm,
if not everybody's benefiting, then don't do it. You're doing something wrong. But this, everybody's benefiting because the organization you're working with has a positive ROI. 9 out of 10 see a benefit, and 10 out of 10 know they're being charged appropriately
right,
by their vendors.
right,
There's nothing to lose by doing better.
that's right, right.
So I love that business model. But Steve, what is obviously we have your website there at the bottom, integritycostconsulting.com. And I know your email's on there as well, but you're also on LinkedIn. What's the
Mhm.
best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, the best way, send me a direct message from on LinkedIn. Email me at steve@integritycostconsulting.com. Um, Call me if you want. I can give you my phone number. I don't really want to give it to people on this
We
video
can put
now.
it in the chat. Do you want
Okay.
me to put it?
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
can put it in the chat or,
Yeah.
or in the not the chat, but the comments after the show.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do all that. So your phone number, your email, steve at integritycostconsulting.com. And then you can certainly also DM him on LinkedIn.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I encourage, if you guys are business owners, CEOs, if you're presidents of companies, if you're founders, if you're entrepreneurs, if you own a business in any capacity or a C-suite member, connect with Steve, because honestly, this is something that, again, any business can need. I can think of about 20 businesses right off the top of my head that you need an introduction to probably very soon, because we need to start helping more people,
Right. Right.
and let's help elevate each other and help businesses grow. If you know any businesses as well, like the ones I'm thinking of, that could benefit from working with Steve, let him know. Let him know who those people are. He's here to help businesses grow and succeed. And so many, real quick too, so many entrepreneurs fail, but do they have to, Steve? I think there's a lot more people that you could be helping that their businesses don't have to fail, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of businesses are focused on revenue, right?
Yep.
They're focused on, and I understand. I am too, right? Um, but you really got to look at both revenue and cost, and
Yeah,
you have to have both. You have to both need to be controlled, or or there's you could fail, right?
that's right. I love that. But let's help each other and reach out to Steve. I'll leave his information in the comments. But reach out to him. Let him know if that's where your company is, and again, send him a link, and he will help you. He will help you succeed.
Right.
But thank you so much for everyone that tuned into the show today, and let us know how we can add value to you in any way. If you want to see me cover any topics in the future, let me know. Let me know what those topics are. Give me some ideas. I love hearing from people. So let me know what your ideas for future topics may be, or who you would like me to interview as well. But thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you soon. Take care.